say you're not involved. Don't try to convince yourself that these problems don't affect you at all. Because now it's Lebanon, Azania, Grenada. How many more? Tell me now, how many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and watch your children go off to war. Don't stand back and wait for this violence to come to your door. Because now it's Chile, Guatemala, El Salvador. How many more? Tell me now. How
Peace. Welcome to the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. I'm Brother Frank, and I'm up with my beloved comrade, Brother.
Tyree, peace.
So jazz is April is Jazz Appreciation Month. So as we talk about jazz for the next couple of episodes throughout this month to show our appreciation for jazz, it's very important that we make the connection from jazz to who we are as a people of African descent. We know that since the first slave was kidnapped and decided to fight back and do something, right, there was expressions against how that slave was being dealt, and even overall how we were being dealt with. And that brings in the play jazz, because jazz is an expression of life. I think the quote from Martin Luther King said it best when he was speaking on jazz. He said, "Jazz speaks for life. The blues tell the story of life's difficulties. And if you think for a moment, you will realize that they take the hardest realities of life and put them in the music, only to come out with some new hope or sense of triumph. This is triumphant music." And I think that's exactly what jazz is, triumphant music. Music that's going to help us endure, music that's going to propel us to move forward in the fight to protect our self-determination, to in fact declare our self-determination. Because every group of people, every community, every nation has a right to be self-determined. And that doesn't happen automatically. That doesn't happen because somebody feels sorry for you. That happens because you are making a commitment to being organized, making a commitment to committing yourself to organized action, and letting people know that you know what needs to be done, and you know that you're going to be very serious about the business of fighting for your self-determination. I just wanted to give you some information on the history of jazz. If you can see it right now, cool, read it. And if you can't, it's just about us knowing what needs to be done, knowing that when we were going through our trials and tribulations, as we still are, our culture is manifested in various ways. And one of those ways is jazz. And so that history of jazz was about us reflecting a time period. And brother, I know you're a historian, you know about our history, and you document that very well. In the 60s, that time period, there was a album or a song rather, The Creator Has a Master Plan. And a lot of revolutionaries said that was inspirational to them. That was a revolutionary anthem. How did you deal with that?
Well, I thought of it as really verbalizing our feelings, and in terms of the Creator having a master plan. Actually, we had a master plan, but that song encapsulated our feelings in terms of us knowing that we were in a situation and that we needed a plan to get out of that situation. So singing that Creator has a master plan was to give us a chance to reflect on our situation and reflect on our need to establish a plan. And let me say this: my name is Tyree. I am a Black Panther, but I'm a former member of the Black Liberation Army. I spent 17 years in various American death camps as a prisoner of war. And I want to say to our listening, our viewing audience, I love you because you are intelligent. You're studying what's going on, and you being in the audience today is indicative of you continuing to study what is going on, and that is indicative of you being intelligent, and also you being in the viewing audience is indicative of you being courageous, because as you know, our enemies don't like for us to be here having these discussions, but you are here. So let me just start out by saying that. But that song is a very good song. The creator has a master plan, and that is to say that not only we know, but the creator knows the situation that we're in, and he knows that we have to formulate a plan to get out of this situation. And that's what we have been doing.
So there was a timeline that I showcased on the screen, and the timeline, for those of us who were not able to look at it, it deals with the creation of jazz and the timeline, and it was a timeline to give you an understanding of what was going on historically in the development of jazz. So late 19th century, African Americans combined, so-called African Americans combined work songs, melodies, spirituals, and rhythms with European music and instruments to create what would become known as jazz. Early 20th century, jazz evolves in New Orleans with pioneers like Scott Joplin. 1920s to 1930s, the jazz age sees the rise of big bands and swing music. 1940s to 1950s, bebop emerges with artists like Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie. 1950 to 1960, cool jazz, hard bop, and model jazz gain popularity. 1960, 1970s, free jazz and fusion takes center stage with artists like John Coltrane and Miles Davis. 1980s to present, jazz continues to evolve, incorporating various styles and influences. And this is just to give you an idea of the development of jazz. You know, and not anything that, not to say that anything that I present cannot be challenged, because I invite that. You know, if you're viewing now and I say something incorrect, please challenge me. I'm always willing to accept hard criticism. I'm not thin-skinned. I understand the importance to continue to invite yourself to be developed. As it came to the end of this timeline, what came to mind when you talk about jazz from 1980s to present, you know, I'm a lover of hip hop. I've been born off of hip hop, and I know you have jazz musicians like Guru and Gang Starr, or Guru and Premier formulating Gang Starr, and they was heavily influenced by jazz. I know I was looking at a piece on TikTok or Facebook, one of those social platforms, where they showed a particular Wu-Tang song being created, and it was created off of a jazz song. So that's just to let you know the input that jazz has. But it's very important for us to understand that jazz is directly linked to our liberation struggle. And you had albums, very important albums, like John Coltrane's Alabama. That particular song, rather, is a very important song because it was reflective of a hard reality, the reality of lynching. And Birmingham, Alabama, what my brother called Birmingham, Alabama, because the excessive bombings happening during that time. So John Coltrane, in response to the killings of the bombing at a church, in which 4 little black babies were killed by white racists, he responded with this song, Alabama. And if you listen to the song, you could hear the passion, the concern, and I think that that lets you know the importance and the power of jazz. You had Billie Holiday with Strange Fruits, dealing with the lynching. That was very graphic. That expressed our hardships for those who didn't know, and I think it's important because it's a song that's always going to be around, and it's a song that circulated during that time. So those who didn't know about this harsh reality were made known. So the musicians were like our newscasters, right? They reported our news. So we had some sense of concern collectively for what we were going through. So if you lived in the South in one particular area and you lived in another particular area in the South, now you were able to get that information, get exchange those ideas because you heard a song that let you feel a certain type of way. Nina Simone, she redoes Strange Fruit, and you can hear the anger in her voice. And I think that, that lets more people become more angry, more passionate, and more committed to doing the work. If you're in the sideline and you not engaged in no political work, then you hear these songs that inspires you to actually do something because it's letting you know that this is your reality. This is something that you should concern yourself in. You had Lee Morgan. Lee Morgan had "Search for the New Land." This song is it relaxes you and you're focusing critically on your reality because of songs like this. And it says a lot about the roles that these important musicians play. Nina Simone, she has a quote about the role of musicians, and musicians are supposed to reflect the times. And you hearing that, what does that make you think?
Well, that's a good quote. Our artists should contribute to the struggle in the field that they're in. They're in art. They do it dealing with art. For instance, the song Alabama. That's artists causing us to reflect on what was going on at that time. And this is what an artist is supposed to do. Artists are supposed to mirror their art should mirror what is going on in society. The other brother dealt with Birmingham, and we want to know that the bombing of the 4 little girls that followed the March on Washington, and that pretty much let us know what the right wing felt about us doing things to petition for our freedom. They bombed the church and killed the 4 little girls. So an artist should cause us to not let these moments pass. They happen on a particular day, but this should be in our minds as many days as possible. And an artist enable us to do that. So that's good for her to have said that, made that quote.
And whenever we talk about what's happening at that time, we talking about the jazz musicians. We're talking about the revolutionary struggle that we're engaged in, that we've been engaged in since Africans were kidnapped and brought here to be slaves. And within those struggles, you have those who made immense sacrifices for our liberation. You have our political prisoners, and you have our martyrs. And that is very important that we understand. Whatever we're talking about our struggle for self-determination, we always have to include the political prisoners and the martyrs. We can't forget those who made those levels of sacrifices, because that commitment should always be recognized, because we don't want anybody to be discouraged because we neglected to mention our political prisoners and mention our martyrs. This is a serious work to be done. One album that when I did research on, I was very impressed by. I heard some songs before, but in its entirety, I have to sit down and listen to the entire album. It's called We Insist, Freedom Now Sweet, and that's by Max Roach. It came out in 1960, and in this album, he deals with the slavery. He got a song that covers slavery. He got a song that covers civil rights, and he have a song that deals with apartheid. He's being accountable. And you think about this particular time, 1960 was going on. The emergence of the Black Panther Party was in the 60s. And so the artist is actually giving those who are on the front line inspiration to fight harder and stronger. I know that if I had been born a little earlier and I was of age to be independent, then that definitely would have been something that would have had me more influence to be a part of some organized action, because I knew that's the only way that change would be possible.
And when I met Max Roach, he impressed me as being a fight back person, so that its music reflect how the kind of person that he was. He was in the struggle. He was fighting back, and he created his music to say that he was fighting back, and he created the music to say that this particular moment, we insist we should pay attention to that, and we should have that reverberate through our consciousness as we go along. So Max Roach, his music is reflective of him being a fight back person. So he was a good brother. Yes.
Yeah, so he knew his role, he was aware of his role, and he played his role, and he was very serious about playing that role. And I know you having a personal experience with him and sharing that experience lets us know that those people were just like us. They wanted to take a position. They knew seriously about what needed to be done. I think that Max Roach today would write a song or conduct a piece on our current situation, and all of those pieces that are conducted are dealing with our martyrs and political prisoners, because they are directly linked. So whenever we hear a particular song like Alabama, we have to think about our political prisoners. We hear a song like Strange Fruit, we have to think about our political prisoners.
And as you say, Max Roach would compose a piece to let us know that during these times, these are not times for us to break and run. We have been conducting ourselves up to this point pretty damn good. And so we should continue going forward the way we have been going. And I'm sure that if Max Roach were alive, he would create a song that would capture that, encapsulate that particular move, that we have to continue going forward. And if we go forward, we will win.
So when we listen to those particular songs that I mentioned, right, because there's a whole body of work, and you start hearing certain titles. For instance, Joe Henderson's "Power to the People." That definitely was a theme of that particular time, because it was made in 1969, and so the Black Panther Party is already active, is already organized, is providing free food to the community, and it's engaged in the war of ideas with its newspapers, and controlling our narrative in terms of how we should live and what we had the right to. So they're doing their work, and the jazz musician is doing their work by providing that soundtrack,
right,
to accountability.
Yeah, Power to the People in 1969 was clearly to say that Black people had moved beyond the point of attempting to integrate into what King called the burning house. And so we are moving away from that and moving towards power to the people, having power in our own communities, having political power, having economic power, and controlling our schools and controlling everything else about ourselves. And that's what Power to the People conceptualized.
And exactly. So just imagine that you're a Black Panther Party member, and you're conducting your business, and now you have somebody that's cheering you on. And I can just imagine the free concerts the concerts that were made by musicians to have fundraisers to support our political prisoners. I know that the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition, we had Jazz for Justice, and those musicians, they participated, and they performed for free, and this was fundraisers for our work, and they played their role. And I know that wasn't new work that was being done, because it doesn't sound like it was new, rather. And I can only imagine that in the 60s that was being done, especially when you had Huey P. Newton in prison, and comrades trying to bring him home. That says a lot about the roles of these musicians and the importance. And that's why when we talk about jazz and its power and its importance, that's what we have to use today as we struggle to free our political prisoners. I'm always telling the audience, like, if you have a talent, use it to raise awareness about political prisoners. Mm-hmm. And what would you recommend that people with talents do?
Well, like I say, we want to have everyone working in their field. You don't have to go into another field. If you are an artist and you paint, that's very good. You want to paint pictures of political prisoners. If you are a musician, you want to play songs and musical pieces that really will cause people to constantly reflect on, especially in their own homes, reflect on our political prisoners and reflect on the situation that we are in. We are in a warfare situation. The 1% is always waging war against us 24 hours a day, and they're using every instrument, every possible road to carry out this war. And so the war is a 24-hour day thing. So to have music playing on our whatever we play it on is very good, because it'll keep before our eyes and keep before our consciousness our situation and the need for us to continue and to move forward.
I want to go back for a minute and think about the beginning of jazz, right? Because it's an expression of our culture, our way of life, ideas and experiences that's passed down from one generation to the next. And according to my research, in New Orleans, there was an area that they called it Congo Square, and then later on it became, I think, Duke Ellington Square, if I'm not mistaken. And then now it allows us to understand that that's our tradition as people of African descent. We came together, we discussed what was happening, we discussed what we were going to do, and we carried that out. So in essence, that's exactly what jazz is doing, right? Jazz is using rhythms, using melodies to relay messages to each other, to let each other know this is what we have to do. It's a part of the propaganda, the war of ideas. And this is an idea of people of African descent. We won't tolerate being mistreated, and we're going to do something about it. And all those who are listening are forced internally to struggle with what they're going to do about it. So we encourage those who are listening to share. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, get involved. The Northeast Political Prisoner is always looking for people.
And jazz is a evolution of our people. I've been to Congo Square in New Orleans with Brother Herman Wallace's funeral, who was a Black Panther. I went there. I didn't attend his funeral, but I went. They showed me where his funeral took place and they discussed with me what happened. But jazz is really indicative of how we have to be. Jazz is improvisation, and that's the way we have, and it's improvising. And improvisation is really an expression of freedom. You know, you're not following the script. You're making up things as you go along, and you're free to do that. And that's what jazz is all about. And that's what our people is about. And that's what the music had evolved into. It evolved into jazz. It evolved into freedom of expression. And that's what we are about. We're about being free and not having a colonizer dictating to us everything that we should do, everything that we should say. And jazz is that expression of that. So we're very thankful to have jazz and that people will have the instruments in hand to reflect that.
Right. So one of the things that we have to be mindful of is that, you know, when it's something is ours and others from the outside come in and then they package it and selling it, they obviously take away from its essence. So, you know, even the word or the label jazz, you know, I know Randy Weston, I read his book and he said that he didn't call it jazz, he called it African rhythms. So that's just something that, you know, we have to be mindful of, but yet and still it's the essence of what we as a collective produce, that we understand it on a whole nother level. And that's exactly what jazz is to us. We understand it on a whole nother level. It's a part of our historical record. It allows us to know that there was a particular time when a particular song or melody was constructed, and that reflected what was happening at that time. And there was an organized response during that time. And we have to apply that to today. Like if there's a particular song that deals with our current reality, we need to be motivated to participate in organized action to rectify the situation. Because if we don't take that particular action, then the situation itself will continue. I know that that's exactly the mindset of political prisoners. Political prisoners recognize a problem and recognize a solution and know that they are part of the solution, and they are willing to put themselves on the front line. Jazz allows them to critically focus on what's happening, right? And that's very important, because you need to know that you have ammunition. You need to know that you have a support system. So Jazz is a support system to revolutionary, to freedom fighters, to those who are conscious about what's happening and willing to take organized action.
And then
For change.
I think Nina Simone said, "Mississippi, goddamn."
Yes, speak on
Okay.
that, brother.
That's right, and that's what the colonizers wish to take us back to, that point where we will be saying Mississippi, goddamn, in New York and Canada or wherever we be at, so that we have to know that the solution to that is to get organized. And once we are organized, we can deal with every possible situation that they could place on us, and we won't individually be saying Mississippi, goddamn. We will be going to our brothers and sisters and letting them know what the situation that we are faced with, and then we can organize around that and we can deal with that. And so when the colonizer come at us in an organized fashion, we can return in kind with an organized response, and then we will not be crying out Mississippi, goddamn, as much as we did in the past. So, and Jazz enabled us to deal with that, to keep that concept in our minds and keep us reflecting on that and knowing that we have to build to win, and that building to win will enable us to win.
Absolutely. And if you look at the construction, excuse me, of a particular jazz song, every instrument plays a role. It's timing, it's the mastery of sound, and it's you go into combat, right? If you deal with military science, right, everybody's playing a different position. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows when to do what, and jazz teaches you that. It teaches you formation, it teaches you organization, to produce the objective that you are pleased with. And I think that as we listen to jazz and we utilize that in our lives as freedom fighters, we need to pay attention to each role that each instrument and each musician is playing, and know exactly what to do at what particular time. And as once you start having that discipline, then it's nothing that you can't do, and you directly link that to your organized action, and you produce an outcome that's in your favor.
And all the individuals, as Frank was saying, all the individuals contribute to achieving the one objective, and all the individuals work as a team. And when called on, they do their part. And that's the way we have to move. We have to move as a team, and each has to do our part. And we are moving on one particular objective, and that is the science for going forward to win.
Right. So when you look at what we're doing right now, right, we're having a discussion on jazz. We're having a discussion on jazz. This is utilized to do some work, around political prisoners. Write to a political prisoner. Use your talent to express the concerns about our political prisoners. This past weekend, I participated in a workshop. I just gave my comments, but there was other members of the organization, Northeast Political Prisoners, and how our allies all linked together, who put that together. And one of the things that I told those in attendance is that, make it a homework assignment to write to a political prisoner. Make it your responsibility to take the task a bit more serious, because that's exactly why you come together. So that applies to today with this particular episode. You watching this episode, we appreciate the likes, we appreciate the shares, but we want to invite you to be a part of the work of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. The number is 347-679-3936. We could definitely use more support, more assistance in this matter. We can't let our political prisoners die in prison, we can't let them be forgotten. So with that being said, y'all know the call, free them all. You got any words you want to say before we end?
Right. We want to know that our political prisoners responded to the situation that we are in. And many of our prisoners were set up because of the leadership role that they have been playing. And so we want to know that we are in a war and we have political prisoners as a result of the war. And it's not that our political prisoners are initiating all of these actions against the authorities, and the authorities are the victims of unprovoked attack. That's not the case. The authorities are the one who created the situation, and we are trying to deal with the situation as best as we possibly can. And that is why there are political prisoners. But many, if not all of the political prisoners are the leadership of the struggle, and that's why they are in the situation that they're in. And so we want to have that appreciation for them and know that they are the best amongst us. And so we want to move with that in mind, and then we can win the struggle. You know.
So what's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
Sail the sea, Indians live proud and free before the oppressor's slavery. Black people live proud and free. How many more? Tell me now, how many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and say you're not involved. Don't try to convince yourself that these problems don't affect you at all. Because now it's Lebanon, Azania, Grenada. How many more? Tell me now, how many more? Don't you stand on the sidelines and watch your children